Welcome to the podcast. My name is Mark Hanna, Program Manager with Northland Adaptive Recreation. Our guest today is Blake Eaton. Blake has been a longtime participant in Northland Adaptive Recreation activities and is currently training for the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games. So we're going to have a fun talk today about your journey in adaptive recreation and how it wound up leading you towards the Paralympic Games. But before all that, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, Blake?
So thanks, Mark. Like you said, I've been a long-time participant through you guys. Before it was Northland Adaptive, obviously Courage County, basically since ever I can remember. I think my parents told me my first time I got put in an adaptive program when I was about 3 or 4 years old at a ski on a local little hill here, Spirit Mountain, and it's kind of just tumbled down ever since. Trying any and every different sport you guys had to offer through skiing, water skiing, wheelchair soccer, archery. Basically, if you can think of it, I've at least tried it once.
I know I've seen you on the curling ice.
Yep.
I know we've seen you rowing at the Duluth Rowing Club and sailing at the Sailing Center, curling at the Duluth Curling Club. Skiing at Spirit Mountain, I believe. We up at Lutsen, we've done a couple of turns at Giants Ridge and Lutsen as well.
Yes.
And beyond what's offered here in the Northland, you've jumped down to the Twin Cities for some team activities as well. Tell us about some of those activities.
So I first tried Slalocky up here just to get on ice. Going to Minnesota, you got to get on the ice and play a little hockey. So I did that, and we ran into a family that lives in Moose Lake. And so they said, hey, come down to the cities, try Slalocky, and be part of the team. So parents drove me down the 2 hours down to the cities and did it one practice, and then they said, oh, okay, let's go to a tournament. Did one tournament, and they said, oh, fine. They got roped into it. So now I've been doing that the last, decade or so. And then me and some hockey players decided to do some softball in the summers to stay active and be able to hang out over the summer as well.
And you were telling me that the World Series is coming up.
National World Series is, I think, 3-4 weeks in middle August, actually down at the Mall of America in Bloomington.
Excellent. So that should be another great time.
Yes.
But what we're here mainly to focus on, and what you've been focusing on competitively, beyond all the recreation activities, is the alpine skiing.
Yes.
So tell us again about your journey with skiing and alpine skiing, and how did the Paralympics come into view?
Yeah, so like I said, it all started when I was, about 3-4 years old. Got put in a ski called a bi-ski, basically a plastic, kind of bucket, we call it, where it's got an aluminum frame underneath, and they got 2 skis, and it more or less just allows me to get out on the hill, be active. I know both my older brothers skied, so my family originally thought it'd be just a good way to get all 3 of us out there together. And then probably when I was about 8 or 9 years old, one of the program managers, Jane, obviously, she couldn't normally recreational stand-up ski, 2-ski, so she was a monoskier. So she said, hey, you should try this. It'll allow you to become more independent, get more freedom, do what you want to do. You can go faster, which I like, because I always like going fast. And so I tried it. And then the first year or two definitely was a struggle bus, some tears, definitely a lot of frustrations, but I got the hang of it, and I just fell in love. And then it continued to get better and better until you guys put on, about 10 years old, I would get invited to the 3-day mono camp you guys hosted up at Spirit Mountain, and I did that. And my love for the alpine skiing was the skiing, being out with friends and family, because I have some friends that I do other sports with. They would come up for that camp. And it was just a whole bunch of things.
Was a whole reunion.
Exactly, yes.
Many families would come back year after year. It was check in on everybody. How's everybody doing through the elementary grades, through the middle school, through the high school, through college, through adulthood. The monoski camp was a special program, wasn't it? Yeah.
We just gotta do that, and becoming more and more independent, becoming more and more the speed, and some older friends, they were better than me, so I wanted to try to get to them. That's when I started really pushing myself.
Yeah, of course, Lisa Gasek and
Obviously,
the
yes.
race team, you got into that,
Yep.
and other friends.
Yeah, that was my first taste of racing.
Jeff Inouye
Oh, yes.
and some of those early mentors got you into racing. Tell about your classification and what it means in alpine skiing and what we might see in 2026 here.
So in the adaptive racing world, we have classifications, they call it. So underneath the three main categories of visually impaired, stand-up skiing, and sit-down skiing, for both men and women, there's classifications within each category to basically kind of help you even the playing field for each of the people.
Okay.
Because obviously my ability to ski and is affected by my injury compared to, let's say, a double amputee or an amputee that just has basically full function of their body and legs minus the limb they're missing. So it's not quite the same if they were to sit down ski and I ski. So my classification is called 10-2. Basically, it evens the playing field by me racing against a slower clock compared to that amputee. So I think about 1 second in real life is about, I'd say, 0.8 on my clock compared to, let's say, a 12 or a 12.2, which is one of the higher, the sit-down skis, would be 1 second of real time would be about 0.9 or 0.2 or 0.92 of their clock. So it all just depends on what muscle groups you have. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And of course, that is common across not just skiing, but track and field.
A lot of
basically any Paralympic sport
Yeah.
where you are racing against a clock.
Yeah, they just try to even as much as they can. It's not perfect science, but it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for explaining that. What are some of the biggest physical or mental challenges you faced so far in this Paralympic journey?
Honestly, physical is just trying to become the highest level of an athlete that I can. You know, fine tuning my body, fine tuning my workout programs for what I need, fine tuning my eating. Another thing with specifically the Paralympic journey is fine tuning my equipment because it's very temperamental sometimes and it's got to be perfect. It's obviously my ski is basically my ski boot plus my leg. And I got with suspension that acts as my knee, so I got to keep that in perfect working, plus making sure I fit in it.
Wow.
Plus also keeping work on my actual skis that are on the snow, and sometimes that takes the longest time. Who knows? So it's just figuring out that, and mentally it's just trying to find the motivation to continue to go because I'm on the snow 5-6 days a week from basically 9 a.m. till 1 o'clock with a maybe 15-20 minute break in between. And it's physically it's demanding, but it's more mentally just trying to stay focused in that racing mode and get motivation to get up at 6 or 7, have breakfast, go get my stuff ready, go get on the snow at 9, and then ski for 5-6 hours straight, and then do that all over again while having dinner and have a life too, you know.
So again, you started recreationally here in the Northland, got on Team Duluth and skied for your high school team, Denver.
I did not ski with my high school team. I just didn't quite work out with the travel and my ski, but I did ski with the Team Duluth local able-bodied club. They could have been more welcoming, you know, allowing me to come in, train with them, race with them if I needed, and just to help me develop my skills in the racing world.
And then the last couple, you did camps out in Breckenridge.
Yeah, I've been camps in Breckenridge and different areas out west just to, I guess they call them national level kind of, you know, development type camps just to, you know, the young people across the country kind of come up and meet and learn from, you know, some of the best coaches in the world in the ski world, plus also former Paralympic athletes and just trying to see, one, help them develop, see if they want to continue in that sport and also if they do, continue their skills.
And the last 2 seasons you've been at...
I've been living and training in Park City full time the last 2 winters with the National Ability Center. I've trained with them for the last 2 years because the National Ability Center and the NSCD, the National Sports Center for the Disabled in Winter Park, Colorado, are one of only 2 national development programs for adaptive skiing in the racing world. So if you don't quite have the resources where you're from, basically any and all come from across the country and sometimes even the world to go race at one of those programs and train. And so, yeah, I've been living and training in Park City, Utah last 2 years. And
Top of the top.
yeah, with them, training with some Team USA athletes and getting coached by former USA athletes. And yes.
You mentioned resources. Is it free? Are you paying to attend?
Definitely not free.
Oh, okay. So how does all that happen? How do you?
So
It sounds like you're on the snow. So
Oh, yeah, definitely.
may or may not be time to work beyond.
Yeah, definitely not free. So I, just to join the team, it's a $5,000 team fee to join the team. Luckily, that includes like travel costs and like race fees that some teams don't offer.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm living out there full time, so I'm paying rent, buying groceries, doing all that extra stuff, and then keeping up on my skis, making sure they're in good working order, waxing them, keeping their edges sharp, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If my ski brakes, replacing parts there. And so it's definitely not free. People always say that Paralympic or even alpine racing is not to make money. It's for the love of it, which is definitely true.
Cool.
But so yeah, with me being able to do that, it's been thanks to a lot of support locally, especially, many supporters I've had through friends and family and local partnerships and businesses that have been able to generously donate time and efforts and money to me and to help me support my cause and helping to chase the 26 Paralympics, just getting me out there and just seeing what I could do.
And I'm guessing you are still welcoming more sponsors, more
Definitely.
supporters
Yep.
financially.
I'm actually in the process of, trying to find any and all who would be willing or able to help, I mean, you're just trying to see, have people hear your story, see if they'd be interested in at least getting to know me a little bit. And if they're not able to donate time or money, at least maybe help me find people that possibly could, just it's all about outreach, and the Duluth community has been great about it, and I'm in the process.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We all love it when a local Northland person goes to the Olympics, Paralympics.
So I'm in the final process of, just raising some money for this season, because this season is obviously the last final push before March when the games come around.
Tell us a little bit about last season, and it sounds like you got on the circuit, went to Europe and got your World Cup points. Is that what they're called?
It's kind of. So, so last season I was, like I said, living and training in Utah, so doing a lot of skiing there, and then we would have races in Winter Park, Colorado. We had a race in Park City, obviously. And then we went to Eldora in Colorado as well. That was a new venue for me, so that was kind of cool, just outside of Denver. And then I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to go out to Austria with me, my head coach, and one of our other athletes.
Fantastic.
Just to go get some extra starts, because he knows that we're right on the verge of making the games, and he's trying to help us get as much experience as possible, but also get as many points as possible. Mm-hmm. And so it was really just an eye-opening experience to travel internationally with all my gear and potentially be having to do that every other couple weeks, being on the Team USA. So it was really just a good eye-opening experience to do that. So I was in Austria for 10 days, racing across 2 venues. I got, I think, like 8 or 9 starts, we call them, basically 8 or 9 start of pushing out of the gates and races. And yeah, it was really good. I got some good results, some not so as what I wanted. It's the up and down of, athletics, but you got to push through, and it was really good. And so I made some good progress, and yeah.
So whether it was in Europe or here in the States, up in Canada, what's your favorite race moment, or what's a memory that just like that was awesome? That was amazing.
I mean, Austria was obviously very cool, just being able to go overseas for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Obviously, doing well, what do you think? It's always, when you're in the middle of the run, you can always usually tell if you're doing pretty well. But there are some times where it's like, oh, I thought I was going so fast. But then you get down to the bottom of the clock's like, oh, not exactly what I thought. But I'd say Austria probably is up there, or when I think my very first podium in the adaptive racing circuit 2 years ago up in Canada for downhill. It was a wild experience. My first ever downhill I'd ever done.
Yeah.
up in Kimberley, Canada. And so, not knowing what to expect, downhill being the fastest, gnarliest, craziest thing you can do, crashing a couple times the day before in training, but, yeah, you just got out there. I get to the bottom. We got to look at the results. And then I have one of my teammates come up to me, and he's actually on the Team USA. He's got a big gold grin on his face, and he's like, "You got me by half second." I was like, "Really? I did?" I was like, "I got to go check it down." And I look, and I'm on third place, and I got my first ever podium, in the adaptive racing circuit, plus also be my first ever downhill. So it was
That's
a very cool moment.
So it does sound you're more of a slalom specialist?
More of a speed, I'm working at everything, but I personally like the speed. I like going straight and as fast as possible.
Okay. What's something people misunderstand when they look at Paralympic skiing or mono skiing, or what do you think?
I'd say the biggest misconception is that, yes, obviously it's great for us to be out there, I guess people could say we're inspirational, but for us personally, it's not that. It's more just we're good athletes, period, no matter if we have a disability or not, that we're, flying down the mountain better than, say, 80% of the mountain, so yes, it's good for us and it's cool to us, and you're more than welcome to come up and say, well, that's very cool, and ask me about it. But it's more just being like, we're not just good for us to get out there because have disability. It's more, it's good for us to get out there because we're good athletes and we're good at skiing, and that's the biggest thing, and specifically about the Paralympic sport is like, yeah, maybe you don't think it's quite the same athletics, but it is. It's the same type of competition. We're, top percentage of the world. I am a top 30 in the world ranked skier. So like it's maybe don't have the same field, but we're still up there, and still got the skills to ski with anyone. I'm
Making it
probably the best skier in our family, and one of the best skiers on the mountain most any time. I'm up in the black diamonds, up in the bowls, up in the bumps of the powder. It's waist deep, and just trying to go have fun and just push myself as much as possible.
That's great. Thanks. What pushes you every day? What for such a demanding sport? The downhill is you're crashing a couple of times the day before the competition. You got your downhill gear, you got your giant slalom gear, you got your slalom gear. I'm not even touching the equipment.
I know. Yeah,
what keeps you going every day?
For me personally, it's the adrenaline for one on the snow, but also just the pursuit of trying to get myself as better as possible, or like with my teammates. So yes, skiing is an individual sport, but when I train, I have teammates, so I'm always trying to catch that next guy ahead of me. It's always the pursuit of someone for me personally. I'm trying to
competition.
I'm a competitive guy. I'm trying to make sure the people that I'm beating currently stay below me, and I'm always trying to improve myself and go catch those guys above me to only help improve my skills, but also to show that I can do it. A kid from Duluth, small town, small hill. I can go show anyone that I could be the best on the hill that day.
I love it, especially being a Duluth connection here. What kind of techniques have you learned, or do you incorporate? Visualization, goal setting, mindfulness. I imagine all the above.
I say, honestly, all of it. Like with before every season, the last few years, our coaches sit down with us and we do a goal setting basically meeting where we write down where we are at in the rankings or where we are at in our abilities right now in the beginning of the season. Then we'll have a mid-season kind of report or a mid-season goal. Then we'll have an end of season. We'll just kind of check in and look through that. And then, while I'm in season or in racing, I'm, trying to eat as well, as stretch where I can, During races, one of our coaches will help us work on like yoga for our mindfulness and recover our bodies, but also stretch, and just trying to make us compete at the best level. Mindfulness. I visualize as much as I can when I'm especially going up the chairlift between practice runs and also between actual race runs. Like, we get a time to actually inspect the course before the races, what we call. So it's a half-hour time we're going to go slowly between each gate and just try to memorize as much as we can.
Cool.
And so we get to the bottom, and then, so I'll get to the bottom. I'll just try to run through it as many times as I possibly can, over and over in my head.
Wow.
Trying to perfect, one turn I think is the most important, or one section, or just try to memorize a certain piece of terrain if it's going to think it's going to affect me or if that's how I'm going to win or lose the race.
You mentioned your preseason and postseason goals, reviewing those. You're a top 30
Yes.
skier in the world. Where do you sit currently in the different disciplines of slalom, giant, super G, and downhill?
So basically across all disciplines, I'm about fifth or sixth in the country.
Okay.
So right now you have 4 male sit skiers on the team. So I'm about right next in line after those guys. Got a little gap between us, but like I said, any given day I've beaten at least 2 of those guys on the course. So like I know I can do it. It's just trying to put consistency through. And then in the world, it kind of varies because honestly, slalom and GS, there's a lot more skiers that compete in that. So my numbers are a little bit higher. I think I'm like low 30s to mid 30s, and then when it comes to the more speed events, super G and downhill, I'm like maybe high 20s or so.
Okay, very
because there's less people that compete.
Yeah,
because they either don't want to, or I guess they're scared or whatever. They just don't have
takes a lot of skill.
They don't have the opportunity to. They don't have the opportunity to compete in those races. So it's just. Yeah, it's just a constant grind to continue moving up in those rankings, up in the skills, and trying to catch who's above you.
That's cool. How do you define success on the mountain and off the mountain?
Oof, that's a good question. I would say on the mountain specifically, obviously you want to do well with times and podiums and medals and being in competition, but it's also about, for me personally, perfecting. I always go to every race run or every practice run with one specific thing I think about in my mind during that to try to perfect as much as possible. And if I feel like I did that, then I was like, okay, sweet. Now I could be able to do that. I'll keep that in the back of my mind, but now I'm going to move on to the next thing. And so that's a way that I always do for success. And then off the mountain, it's just trying to, continue to better myself for the mountain, but also continue myself as a person, continue to develop the relationships I found through skiing. I've met some of my best friends. I've got to meet some very cool people. Like I said, I've gotten to ski across the world with international athletes, from Netherlands, the Chinese, and just trying to develop and absorb as much of their knowledge and their culture, and just trying to absorb myself into all that community.
Very cool. And even locally, I know you still volunteer with our program.
Yeah.
You're helping at the rowing club. You're helping on the golf course with adaptive golf.
Yeah.
You're doing other giving back to our Northland community here, Duluth Superior, Iron Range, North Shore of Minnesota.
Yeah, I want to help the people that maybe have not found what their niche is, like my skiing, and help them find it. Through you guys, I've been able to find what makes me happy, and I want to try to see if they can find themselves.
Mm-hmm. What message would you give to young people with disabilities who are unsure about getting into a sport recreationally, and then maybe competitively? Because it is a jump to go from doing something recreationally to being competitive.
Mm-hmm. It sounds so cliche, but you just got to try it. Like I said, when you guys have a program, I don't know how many people you call before me, but I'm sure it's not many. You call me up and say, hey, you want to come try this? Mm-hmm. I'm like, let me see if I'm free. If I'm free, yeah, I'll come try it, see what I like. Like I said, I've done everything you can do, and some things I've stuck with, obviously, and some things I haven't, and it's just trying to try it. And then for if you want to jump into a sport, it's okay not to jump in a sport. You can do it recreationally. You can do it with your family or friends. You don't have to jump in a sport. But if you wanna, again, you just kind of have to go for it and just try to find what makes you happy and what drives you to get better.
Mm-hmm. No, thanks for sharing that. And of course, we've had some different athletes from the Northland. Ezra comes to mind. He went to nationals. Bryn in her years of competition. So there's always people out there to mentor and give advice. And Lacey, of course, with her silver medals from the Paralympic Games. And so it's a cool community that you build, whether you do it recreationally or competitively.
Yeah, the competitive side tries to mix in with the recreation side as much as possible, and vice versa. And I always say to people that the disabled or the adaptive sports world is a big community, but it's also a very small family type community where everyone kind of knows everyone through the local communities and across nationally.
Yeah, yeah. What with the Paralympic Games, for me, it's been fun to see the growth and the acknowledgement. You have major sponsors of corporations sponsoring both Olympic, Paralympic, all one thing now, all one organization. What do you feel the media and the public, do they give enough visibility to the Paralympic athletes? What would you change?
I mean, it's definitely growing in the right direction. I think there always can be room for improvement. Like you said, it's big that big organizations like Toyota are sponsoring, or like Toyota sponsoring specific athletes nowadays on Team USA, and they're making them skis designed by their engineers and wind tunnels. It's great to see that type of growth in the Paralympic sport. But there's definitely still needs to be a lot more movement in, just coverage, and not only like on TV, but just coverage across local media, and just getting the sport out there to local communities, to local people, for people to understand what the sport is, to understand who we are, what our challenges are, but how we overcome them, how we're an athlete at the end of the day, and also just to hopefully help get people that have a disability to see what they can become, and just try to become the best version of themselves. And so it's always a constant fight, almost, I guess, to continue to get our name out there and to continue to grow the game can continue to grow the sports world and Paralympic sports world for the people coming up. I know I'm younger, but I still kind of I have that feel like I need to do that for the people even younger than me, and just continue to try to grow and get us out as much as we can.
That's cool. I appreciate you being here, and this certainly helps. And
it definitely does, and I appreciate you
as the Olympics come up, I'm sure we'll see some more.
That is the hope, yes.
Coming down the pike here. What, any pre-race rituals or superstitions, like some baseball players don't wash their uniforms before a game, or some hockey players have to tape their stick a certain way?
I'm not that crazy. I do have some superstitions about it, but not that crazy. It's more just my little pre-race ritual, certain stretches I do before I race and stuff, and some breathing I do, because I tend to get a little hyped up with my breathing, so I always try to take a few breaths coming in before I get into the start gate, and then I'll take about 3 breaths before I actually push out, and I'll push out, and then I always check the equipment as much as I can before, flip the outriggers up and down, make sure they're not frozen together so I'm not stuck. But it's the breathing and the stretches.
No superstitions now. Okay, good. And that sounds crazy. Like a routine there.
Yeah, it's more of a routine. But
how about a pump-up song? Do you have some headphones?
Nothing crazy. Sometimes I'll have the headphones in. Honestly, a lot of starting areas will have their own music there. So it's kind of a combination of what the people like, and sometimes I'll be talking to people too. It's kind of whatever I feel in the moment. Sometimes I need to really focus in and just kind of ignore everyone, and sometimes I have to just try to hang loose. If I feel the butterflies coming, try to hang loose and talk to people and just chit chat.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you about, hey, I'd like to support your Paralympic journey. I have a business that might be able to contribute to your success. Yeah. How do they get a hold of you?
So, there's a couple different ways. So if you're like a local person, just a singular person, if you want to reach out to me, I can always follow me on my social media, on my Facebook page, Blake Eaton, my name, and then my Instagram page, Blake Eaton 2. So I'm sure we'll figure out a way to hopefully get that on the podcast or be able to promote that. I'll definitely promote this podcast. Yeah. And then if you're a business and you want to learn more about me, I can you can reach out to me via my phone number, my email. However, you can find
Miller Dwan.
Yeah, Miller Dwan. Yes,
is collecting donations on your
I've been able to get a pretty cool partnership with them, and so if you reach out to me or Miller Dwan, you can donate to me and my cause by writing Miller Dwan a check. Donate it for me, but also it'll be tax deductible because it's a nonprofit, and so that's a big plus for businesses. And if you want to just contact me for me to come talk to you guys and at least understand, or I can come be a speaking engagement, or promote you guys anyway, I'm more than open for ideas or whatever you guys want to talk about.
Last question. What's one piece of advice or takeaway message you want to leave with the listeners?
Oof, wow, way to put the last question. That's the hardest one. Find what makes you happy. Like I said, that's kind of been what I've been following for most of my life, and that's kind of what led me to this point in my sporting journey and across working with you guys. I've been just trying to find what makes me happy and what motivates me to get out of the house and what motivates me to find new friends and build those relationships with my friends and my family, because like I said, with skiing, I've been able to make some of the best friends I've ever had, and also I've been able to do a lot of cool stuff with my family, One of my first skiing memories was going out to Big Sky, Montana, skiing with my former adaptive PE teacher and my brothers and my dad. And so it's been able to just a wide net of just finding what makes me happy and just sticking to it and just following my my heart, honestly.
Well, thank you, Blake. Thank you for listening, everyone. Well, that concludes our podcast. I want to thank you for listening, and thanks, Blake, for attending.
Thank you.
Follow us on social media, the Miller Dwan Foundation, Blake Eaton,
Yep.
and Northland Adaptive Recreation.